everything's shocking and everything's not, at the same time.
I know. It's like
The paradox of the current situation.
That's the key word, paradox.
Yes.
That's why I was exchanging messages with a friend of mine. She's pretty lit. And I'm just like, yeah, you can't take your eye off of it until the last second because it could flip at any time. You just never know what's going to flip. It's just the paradoxical structure of the universe, the yin yang. You can be in the yin and you're really in the yang,
and flip 4 times in an hour. Yeah, all of it.
Here we go. There's one. It's going to take a second. Yeah, you're being requested by popular demand. I mean, watching the YouTube comments.
You mean viewers that like to argue with me?
No, they love you. They're like, oh my God, I love her.
So requested. They're like, oh no, trigger alert, trigger alert.
Trigger alert. Man, but that's the thing. The triggers are the treasure, really. I mean, it's just like now more than ever.
Yes. So if you are a lightweight snowflake, don't watch this show.
If you're a lightweight snowflake.
It's going to make you mad. And don't bother, comment and argue with me. I just don't care.
Are you with me? Huong Nguyen. Boom. I just tagged you. Wait, why is there 2 of them? That's weird.
2 what?
2 videos. Oh, it's just another Facebook flaw. Yeah, we're Bruce says drip dropping. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Ever since that blackout.
Social media blackout? So you survived your social media blackout?
Oh, I didn't. It's not a big deal for me. I only get on to share posts and do videos. Yeah. I don't even. I don't know. Just finding posts to share. I come across a lot of stuff, but yeah, it wasn't a big deal. In fact, it was weird because I woke up that morning and I don't know. I sit on the bed for about 10 minutes and I just kind of go through some gratitude stuff, and I don't remember. I just remember waking up and everything felt different, and I didn't know yet that it was down. And then I got up and I was walking to the kitchen and I was like going to message Morgan, and I could tell that something was off. And then I just, okay, so it's finally happened, right? I was just like, it's finally happened, and I just was fine with it. I was just like, okay, I guess we're all going to be forced to communicate through telepathy or whatever it is.
Well, it's ironic because I use social media for my business a lot, right? But that day I was so busy in store that I didn't even look at social media for the entire hours of operation. So finally, I created some content in the early morning before the store opened, and I had every intention to post it. And then as soon as the doors were open, we were busy. And then after the doors closed, I'm like, oh crap, I better post this. So I post it, not knowing that it was down for 6 hours. And then I come home for dinner. My husband's like, did you survive the social media blackout?
Did you survive?
Because I'm attached to my phone, right? And he's being super snarky. I'm like, what blackout?
What blackout?
Are you serious? There was a blackout. People were losing their shit. We're talking about anyone that has, I guess, if you earn your income using social media platforms, right? Being down for 6 hours is a big deal, but it's just one of those things. I was like, and then I was following up on the technicalities, why it happened, blah, blah, blah. But what just blew my mind was the fact that, they were down for 6 hours, right? Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Every hour that they were down, it was $1 billion in lost revenue.
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my head around that. I'm like, that is insane. That is insane.
Well, I mean, think about it. When I got, when I saw what was happening, I didn't go into, I just went, okay, well, it finally happened.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a note or something. And I was like, later they sent me a note and they're like saying something about it. I said, well, somebody sent me a text message on my phone. So it was still down. A friend of mine sent me a text message and I said, yeah, it was going to happen sooner or later. But my whole thing was, I thought, well, it may never come back. And so I was okay with it. I was fine with it. But to your point, that's probably what happened is all the stockholders started bailing on the stock because if there was a blackout and had any permanency to it, there would be no value to. I mean, it would be absolutely worth nothing.
Were you a little upset when you learned out, oh, it's just down because they were trying to stop some whistleblowers? Like I was secretly hoping there was an alien invasion somewhere that knocked out like this high level satellite system. And I'm like,
I didn't.
what?
Yeah.
Just whistleblowers, man. Where did the
I didn't
aliens
know.
come
I
from?
didn't know that was the reason.
Yes. There
Yeah.
is
I mean,
a
that's. I
huge
mean,
whistleblow action.
that's the thing though. You can't even like even they had that whistleblower going 60 minutes and people get kind of excited about it, and I did for a second, and then I thought, wait a minute. So I went and watched like 10 minutes of it. I thought, this is bullshit. This is just false propaganda. This is just counter propaganda. Because I mean, who's going to get on 60 Minutes, which is controlled, and have something run against them if there's not some type of psyop strategy behind it? So I don't know. It's again back to the paradox. Like, what's real, what's not real.
Exactly. So I'm still holding out. I still think there's an alien invasion somewhere. The whistleblower was just like basically smokescreen. I'm like, so because yesterday we also in our neighborhood, I mean, it's very small. The entire internet went down in our neighborhood, which is half of the city, right? So
Really?
that was, yeah. And so I'm like, whoa, twice in 1 week. What's going on? So I don't know. Feels like something is going to reveal itself very, very soon. Like something
I totally
the collective
agree.
has been wanting and manifesting, and we may have accidentally created this manifestation just because all of our hearts have united through this galvanization. So something's gonna elevate where you're just, yeah. So
I totally
enjoy
agree.
the moment of pause, people. It's gonna
Yeah,
get very exciting very soon.
I totally agree. I feel like
Yeah.
it's and I don't make predictions, but I feel like it's we're in it now, and it's this month, November, December. I think it'll clear in December. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't know how it would happen, but I have a feeling the way it would happen would make sense to me. Like, but I don't know. Is that it would seem something that it's not for an extended period of time. So, say, for instance, social media, internet period just goes out,
Mm-hmm.
and it just goes out for like weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and then everybody's basically as a result of it, kind of like what happened with the lockdowns last year, where people were with themselves and with their family, and new lines of communication and new self-revelations and all that stuff was happening. So imagine the energetic force of the internet just being shut off for,
Yeah.
say, two
It's
months.
huge.
So what that would do to people in terms of self-awareness and, and ultimately expansion. And then as you get to a point, just like we know, when you want something, you have to let it go, right? And then it
Yeah.
comes back like a millionfold. And then, say, at a period of 6, 7, 8 weeks, once everybody hits this point of, okay, I accept this, we're in a new world, we have no internet, we're starting over, and then all of a sudden, boom, it comes back on, and it's a millionfold. Like all the censorship is removed, all the true metrics are revealed. Just I don't know. I just that old saying about it's darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
Like the pressure gets pushed to the very, very final point, and then it bursts open. But I'm with you. I feel like we're definitely. It's not. It's going to happen. I really don't believe that January 1 will even recognize. Based on like what it is today. I think
Yeah.
something's going to be more than one thing. Just be so dramatically different.
Yeah.
So
So you went through quite a embodiment last couple of weeks.
last week. It was
Last
last
week.
week.
Last week.
I Yeah, that's right. We haven't talked. Well, it was right after we talked. So we talked on Saturday. I did a show on Monday,
Yeah.
and I was sitting in this chair, and as soon as I got off the show, I turned my chair and I felt something just literally come into my body. Like
Yeah.
I've never felt this before. And I didn't, for some reason, I knew innately it wasn't like a possession or something like that. But I had had like 3 experiences where a soul that I ended up knowing tried to come into my body, and I knew what it was, and I was like, "Hey, you're not coming in my body," because it had a I don't know, an agenda, or had something it wanted to do. It was actually a guy that I didn't know here, but I know his wife. She's a friend of mine. She was part of the path, and he had passed away, and I went to her house and met her, and then he's trying to jump in my body because he wants to lay with her, basically. But anyway, the sensation of it, I recognized that, but this actually just came right into my body. And so I got out of my chair, and immediately, I mean, it went like that. It was like an immediate fever, high fever too. And then the aches, I mean, it was just immediate. And so I basically crawled to the couch and laid down there, and I was there for 5 days if I wasn't in the bathroom. So it was pretty. The first 48 hours were very severe. I'd say probably like the first 36 hours. And I didn't sleep for more than an hour to an hour and a half. I was having like lucid dreams. But the main thing that happened was there was a procession of these ugly beasts.
Mm.
Like I'm laying on the couch and I look over and I see this ogreish, ugly, you might call it by human terms, evil looking beast or demon or monster, whatever. And I thought, well, wait a minute. In 2016, before I hit the road, we used to walk in the cemetery every night, and I went through this progression of bringing dark and light into my heart. And then one day I hit it. I hit pay dirt. And the crazy thing was, I had downloaded some pictures from the cemetery the day before and put up a post impromptu about that memory, about how I was on this road that I had named the path of peace. And that moment when I put I accepted all aspects of dark and light into my heart, and I had whatever happened to me. So the day before, I had written this post, and then as I'm laying on the couch, I'm getting all the intel. It's like, okay, you know why you did this. So I thought, well, I guess I'm doing another one. But I'm looking to my left, and I'm seeing this ogre, and to my right, I don't see anything. So what would happen is they'd come in like, oh, we're scary. No disrespect. You're all aspects of me. Like, hey, are you afraid? I'm like, no, I've been through this drill before. So I would take it in, and then I'd look, and there'd be another one. They'd be uglier, scarier. And so I went through probably 10 or 12. And when I got to the very end, there was like a, like in a dark night with red eyes like fire, that was like dressed like a medieval knight, and kind of angelic, but that dark beauty. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, I must be at the end. And I looked to the right and I saw this kind of like an Archangel Michael type of, like the polar opposite. And I thought, oh, I got this. So I put him in my heart, and it was instant. And then I kind of heard, no, 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 no. And I looked to my left, and there was the beast of all beasts. And they said, no, you've got to, it's not going to be like that. This is like, in other words, it was beyond what I could comprehend. So then I looked to my right, and there was about a, like a 12-foot tall, I would say like a light being, angelic light being. Wasn't an angel, wasn't a light being. It was like a mixture of both, and it was feminine. And in that moment, I realized this whole procession was a masculine thing. And then I'm looking over here, and this is represented by this feminine light being. And then it took about 3 or 4 minutes for me to neutralize them and bring them into my heart. And that was the end of that. Now, the minute it happened, I knew I was healed, but my body was still going to have to go through the grind. And then I was told, and I was actually shown when I was going through it, I was shown my intestines, I was shown my stomach, I was shown all different parts of my body, my organs. like, like I was inside, like with one of those scopes and just looking around, and even saw the cellular, the atomic within the cellular, and then I understood or heard, however that works, that this is a total reformation. You have been upgraded, completion. That's those words actually showed up, right? Like you've been totally upgraded, like a kind of a semicolon, completion. So that's all I knew, and then I spent the next 3 days trying to recover. I was telling Julie that I had like I had all this air in my stomach, like it was just bloated, like it didn't make any sense because all I'd been drinking is tea and ginger tea, homemade ginger tea, and broth. And so she's like, well, I had a swollen stomach all last week, and these energetic pregnancies happen to men too. So I kind of feel like it was. I always feel like it's multiple things. I don't think it's ever just one thing. And so yeah, so then there was like a halftime, which was I recover Saturday morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the whole fucking world went to shit. And I'm sitting there going, hey, I'm okay, but this is interesting. And then Morgan puts up a post a couple days later about this fusion of the masculine and feminine, and people are talking about, like Melissa Dehan's talking about, her and Robert are sharing the same brain. They're having a tough time, but they're going through it together. And then all these comments, I was reading all these comments. So I don't know exactly what it was. I mean, Morgan and I talked about it again last night. We were saying, okay, is it, she said to me, because she had the same thing happen to her. See?
Mm-hmm.
So
I saw that. Yeah, she wrote a
yeah,
post.
okay. So it was in the post, right? So she thought, well, is this Todd? But it doesn't feel like Todd. And so, and I'd never had that experience where something like had totally just come in. So we were talking last night, and we just kind of came up with, is this the golden child energy? So in other words, with two people, romantic or not, two people, they reach a certain frequency together, and then this third energy has a higher frequency because it, in a sense, has the highest alignment of both, and then it jumps in to each one and merges, which would make sense to me because the two halves would not be at the level of alignment. Therefore, you would have all the purging and the illness and the emotional stuff, all that stuff, all the crap coming up. Mm-hmm. And that, based on what we experienced and based on some messages we both each received individually, even as recent as last night when I was talking to her, a couple that we worked with in Germany, it seems like there was some type of, from an energetic standpoint, metaphorically speaking, that there was a full union frequency of some sort, that what, because I mean, if you look at the comments and all the stuff that people were saying, now it wasn't all exactly the same, but there was enough there to go, wait a minute, it's one thing to have individual people going, hey, this happened to me, this happened, but when you have couples who are sharing a path and there's a bunch of them plus the individuals, it's like, wait, something's going on. And then for me, it just feels like we're in it. Like, I know we've said that, or I've said it, but this is like, I really feel like this is like, the next 60, 90 days is just going to be, who knows? All I know to do is just stay open and keep my eye on things, because you can't buy. I don't feel like I can buy into anything, because we could get to the last playing card that you pull over and it's the exact opposite of what your belief system is, because I think that's what this is all about. Yeah. trippy stuff.
A lot, though, don't you think?
It does happen a lot.
Yeah, you come, the brain part of the process goes through and starts like deconstructing it and reconstructing it depending on your life experiences. So it creates some kind of like narrative that you can resonate with, right? Because like otherwise you can't relate to whatever weird experience you're going through. So I think like for myself, when I saw that you went through that, and now the first thing that went to my brain was like, oh man, dude got the COVID. And of course, right? That's the first thing. And I'm like, but I thought he was recluse. Like I'm like, he's recluse. He shouldn't be. You actually don't interact with many people in real life. I think.
Yeah, but I go to the store and at least
Yeah.
twice a week and probably up to the little market 2-3 times a week. And I did think that as soon as it happened, I thought, well, you got COVID.
But
You know
you
what
know
I
what?
mean?
That's the first thing I said too. But
Yeah.
then as soon as I said that, like I said, oh shit, Todd has COVID, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, shit, he's an American. There's no free healthcare out there. So that's the
Right.
first, that's just the brain processing it. And then as soon as I said that, I was like, no, Todd doesn't have COVID. And so that's when, remember I texted you, I'm like, how is your breathing? Like the human hung just needed you to say, I'm breathing okay. And then as soon as you said that, that affirmed the higher self that said, Todd doesn't have COVID, not to worry, right?
Yeah.
But,
Well,
and then, so sorry. So then, but you were talking a lot about abdominal region area pain more
yeah.
than lungs, right? So
Yeah.
that,
Well, yeah. But look, I didn't, and I haven't even said this. So Morgan asked me at one point, tell me how you feel, don't lie. And
yes.
the only thing I didn't tell her was the breathing. Now, I wasn't having like really, really hard time breathing like an asthmatic,
Yeah.
but I could definitely feel that there was something happening. So I don't know if I technically had it. I know that when it first came out in 2020, we were in Florida, and I know that we both got it. Okay, like right away, like it was March or April. She even like basically gave me last final instructions for her, for her in case something happened. She got through it like in about 24 hours or less. Mine lasted like 3 or 4 days. But this one was different. This one felt different. So I thought, well, maybe you got the very or whatever, but now I need to go to work. So I just focused strictly on the energetic. So I really don't know. But what was interesting is that Franco went down the same day
Yes.
on that Monday. And I had a show with James Greenshields a few days ago, and he got hit with something the same day. Now, his wasn't such a physical illness type of thing, but it was, he planted himself on the couch for 5 days and didn't move. All right. So
Okay.
there
So
some type.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So if anyone that's new to watching Soulogy, Morgan and Todd talk a lot about soul merging. That's one of the modalities that you guys have been kind of organically working through, right? Is basically, and it sounds, you can go into the explanation of it, but part of the soul merging, you guys have expanded with not just each other, but with other couples as well, right? And then
Yeah.
you named this like group of couples your monad. Is that correct?
No. No.
Okay.
That part. I mean, it doesn't matter, but no. No. Okay. So we had monad experiences, but that would go back a couple of years ago. But so basically, the merging when you merge and our helioscamos, so you merge, and we're always merging. It's just, are we consciously merging, or is it unconscious, like our history of unconsciously creating? Okay, so it's kind of like that. Now we're consciously creating, so it's kind of like that. But what happens when there's a merge, a conscious merge, helioscamos, like you and I merge consciously? There are, let's just say, strengths that you have, higher levels of alignment of certain frequencies that I am unless I'm deficient in, and vice versa. And so what happens with the merge is we basically pick up code from each other and raise our frequencies, our multi frequencies, to overall raise our vibration. Now, in terms of like what's happening with us and others like us, per the intel she's pulled down, this has gone on for several months, is that that once the let's say once the two have reached a certain point, they will start to merge with other couples, and that's already started. Like that's already started. We've done that for a while, even going back to September of last year when we went to Sedona, when there was a big gathering there that she had gotten intel on, which involved androgynous frequencies and also I would say like divine union frequencies, couples. So it's more like, I don't know if that's a monad, but like the way I understand it is, how can we achieve let's say unity consciousness with 10 people or 20 people or 100 or 1,000 people if we can't do it first with one. So you do it with one, and when it gets to a certain frequency, then any individual or couple that is close and you come into contact, then there's another merging and everybody raises again, and then that's kind of how the New Earth grid gets gets anchored, is because we are the pieces of the grid, right? So that's kind of, I guess, where that monad part came in, and it would make sense that that at least a good part of the ones that you come into contact with, you are closer to, from a soul tribe sense, because we did have, and again, when I say we, she typically pulls down the intel, the explanation. And after we had, say, these encounters in Sedona in September of last year, they came in and they said, okay, this person, that person, this person, that person. And it wasn't just Sedona, it was the other interactions we had before and after. So it's almost, I can see it, I just can't explain it very well, but that's the best I can do.
Okay. Let me throw some crazy stuff at you.
Yeah, I want to hear the crazy stuff.
So last week I had a photo shoot. So I'm an interior designer when I'm not hanging out with Todd.
Oh, I thought you were a cinephobe.
And part of my work, or how I earn my living, is basically I create spaces, right? So once I finish a big project, I usually do a professional photo shoot, and then just to create our portfolio, and that's how we grow our business. So this project I was working on, I started this project about a year and a half ago, and it's on a home in Vancouver that is 100 years old, very old home. And one of the things is this client has been with me for a while. So this is the third home that I've worked with them on. So my clients have known that I actually energetically work with spaces in addition to the visual spaces. So I combine the two. Sometimes the clients, if they're hyper intuitive, they can pick up on that. And then sometimes the clients, if they're not, they just know I do a lot of pretty, right? But I do a lot of energetic work before I even tackle the visual aesthetics of the space. So they were house hunting, and the oddest thing, they just like, would you be able to feel out our potential properties to see if it's a good fit for us in terms of energy? Just give us your energetic feel. Now I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I did that, and it was the first time professionally I did that in conjunction with my interior design work. And they came through a couple homes that totally were, you get a big no, right? And then this one home was just like, I'm like, okay, this home is beautiful. Your family's going to thrive in it. The home welcomes you. So they were super happy about it. We go in, and I do a cleansing ceremony before I even start anything. It's more like just asking permission, because a home of that age has so much energetic imprint. The first thing I usually do is I go in and I just feel it out to make sure that if there's any kind of blips or weird spots, or what I call low spots in it, if I can, at the very minimum, just hold a barrier in those spots so it doesn't affect the family that's living there, right? If I'm really on point that day, then maybe I can clear it. But it really depends on the day and what other entities are coming in with me to assist me with that. So on that day, I actually had my ancestors team showed up. So not dragons, the ancestors team. So they came in and they started immediately. I can see the layers of the home. I can feel the history of the home, could feel all of the dense parts of it. And there's like 4 generations that have lived prior to it that has deposited all of their hopes and dreams in this home. So if you ever live in spaces, when we're talking about creating the new grid, there's layers and layers of energy deposits, right? And in order for you to build on something that you would hope that would thrive with you, you need to go through what is kind of like demo work, but you have to be really careful about it. You have to be really respectful, because we had full intention of renovating this house, a gut job, but restoring it to its original beauty with a twist of modern, basically capabilities of the home, right? So first time he came in, and I was immediately drawn to a darker spot in the home. And that was just where I had to go in. And it was working on that space, asking for and letting the space know we are going to be renovating. Is this going to upset you? And if it is, what is it that we can do to help you return to the light? Because sometimes it's trapped entities, like trapped souls that haven't returned back to space. Sometimes the person occupying the space is so strong when they were human that their energy still permeates it, like it's just kept there, right? Or something horrific happened and it's basically encapsulated there. So I thought I worked on this home. I worked through, like, it still was alignment for the clients and everything, but still had a couple low spots. So I thought I worked on it. Anyways, last week I went back to do a photo shoot and I didn't realize it. One of the areas that I thought I just was able to contain, like just put an energetic shield on it so it wouldn't interact with the family, it followed me home. And I didn't realize it followed me home because on the photo shoot, I was there for 4 hours and I was like hustling and sweating because usually for photo shoots, we do a lot of physical things, just moving the personal effects out of the shot and styling the shot so it can look a certain way. But anyways, I went and it followed me home, and I didn't realize it followed me home until the day that you went down. Something happened. So on that day, like the same crazy day that you and Franco were affected and Morgan was writing all these posts and everything, I also had my second COVID shot. So I just assumed the effects of how I was feeling was from that COVID shot. But I realized after, when I was reading everything, there was more to it. And then also I had this entity, which I thought was interesting because we never talked about what embodiment you were going through when you had yours, because you were talking about another entity that was coming through your system, right?
Yeah.
So we never discussed this. This is the first time we discussed this. And for myself, I realized this entity followed me home with that intention as well. So the same time that I thought I was having just COVID dosage, like the second vax symptoms, which is pretty common, everybody in my family has been double vaxxed, and no one has got it as hard as I did. I went down for like 2 days, like super hard. Fevers, chills, all of it. And I didn't realize what was happening until I think the night before when I messaged you. I'm like, I'm going to tell you this crazy story.
2 nights ago.
Yeah, 2 nights ago, remember? But you fell asleep. I was like, I'm going to tell you this crazy story. So because I realized when I came out of the physicality of feeling all of it, that it's almost like it felt like there was a big shakeup of basically soul switching. There must have been a choice point for everybody at very similar times that were kind of connected with your soul tribe of whether or not someone has permission to enter your body to use it for whatever. And some of us may have been like a little bit more graceful. And then some of us, like myself, was fighting it the entire time. Where it's just like, oh, hell no. I don't know. No, it was like, no. Of course. And that's how the body responds is no. So and then I realized when I came out of it and I was a lot healthier, I'm still quite like lethargic. I'm really low in energy. What I was processing was whatever that followed me home was just asking for permission to use the body to return to light. And I said, no, right? I was like, there's other ways. You don't have to do that. Like, you can just make the choice. We're in an energetic frequency where you can make the choice. Maybe in the past, that's one method of how you can help transmute darkness to lightness, is to go through a vessel and basically use the excess capabilities of that energy system to help boost you out of that scenario. But that is no longer the case. So I thought it was because even for yourself, you're like, I had to bring these into my heart, and part of the embodiment process. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting, because I went through a similar process, but a different perspective of it, where I was just like, no, there was something that followed me home from this really old house
Right,
And
right,
it wanted to use my body as a passage to get back, as a portal to get back to
right,
to
right.
its source, right? Yeah. So anyways, and then the other thing that I was through all the intense lucid dreaming that I had, I kept going back to the sweat ceremony. So when I was a teenager, my best friend is Cree. So I was exposed to a lot of indigenous culture and their healing and not realizing the gift it is now that I'm an adult, right? So when we were in the sweat ceremony, I call her my Cree mother. She was actually in a naming ceremony trying to get her spirit name, and we were
Mm-hmm.
part of the process. So what I learned in that is when you go in, and you can call it your tribe, your monad, your community, whoever you're close to, is
Right.
usually who you're going to journey in a sweat ceremony for. So what they would do is they would basically have all the members come in, and then my Cree mother would explain to me what was happening. And one of the things she says is there is, in order to get the healing process, if someone is ill, we're going to hold a healing ceremony. So someone was ill, and then on top of it, my Joyce, my Cree mother, she wanted to figure out what her spirit name was. So the medicine man at the time said, yes, we could do both in the same ceremony. That's not a problem. So in that, there was a woman that was very sick from cancer, and she was part of their tribe, came in, and then Joyce was, she was very hesitant bringing myself, my sister, and her daughters in because we were quite young at the time. But the medicine man is like, no, the young ones will not feel the heat because they do not come in with anything. Usually, when you're that young, you don't have any preconceived notions. You haven't
Right.
really done anything awful except maybe like hit another kid. But when it comes to like the darker expressions of humanity, you didn't make those choices as a kid, really, right? You usually act out of heart. So you're pretty pure of heart when you go in. You're not going to feel the heat. The people that will feel the intense heat are actually, it's actually the medicine man or the person that holds the greatest light, and they carry the heat for the sickest people.
Mm.
So what happens is when you go into this sweat ceremony, is everybody is basically chanting. They're going through a ritual. Rocks are added to the fire to create like intense heat, and it is super hot in there. If you're ill, you're going to feel the heat. If you are one of the elders that have the greatest amount of light, you're going to feel intense heat, and you're going. And part of it is again taking the darkness off of that person, absorbing it through yourself, embodying it, and then bringing it back to Gaia. So that's the process in the sweat ceremony. The body is used as a vessel to transmute.
I got you.
Yeah, darkness. So when I was, so on the weekend when you were super sick and I was super sick, all I could think of was basically I went, every lucid dream went back to the sweat ceremony.
Wow.
Everything that was there, Henry, the medicine man, was there, myself, and then all these people were in there. And here's the really freaky thing. But you know the sweat ceremony that's in Soulogy Fest?
Yes.
They actually had like their that was the TP or the lodge that was in the lucid dream.
Far out.
People that were attended Soulogy Fest was part of that. And then so I wasn't, and it's just like, and then at the center of it was like Franco, Jason, and yourself as basically the holders of transmuting this sickness, right?
Far out.
COVID or whatever. So then when I asked, okay, Todd have COVID? It's like, no. Does Franco have COVID? Yes. That was my immediate thing, right? Was just like, yeah. But Franco is going to make it, so not to worry. I know we have a gathering for Franco at immediately after this, I think, like at 5?
No, at 5. Yeah. So hour and 20 minutes.
Yes. So it's the same thing, but it was just one of those things where for whatever reason, Franco's soul decided to step up and take the healing for the collective and basically take it up pretty intensely. It sounds like.
God, yeah, but I mean, you're connecting all the dots. I mean, like the sweat lodge thing, and then the fact that it was the TP at the Soulogy Fest. the whole protocol and process and the way it occurs, you know, like with the elders taking in, that's that, and then the lucid dream thing too, because I had the lucid dream uh, about the whole situation, about these healing circles of 8, and Franco was in it, and Morgan was in it, and I wrote about it, and I did 2 videos on it because it was all happening real time. And then because what had happened was he he already has a condition,
Yes.
and he literally, he never talks about it, and I hope he doesn't, but I don't think he will because he's my brother. But I won't get into specifics. But he monitors himself every day, all day long, and he has certain things that he utilizes to both maintain his physical vessel and to keep tabs on it. So he already has that. You could say that he has, and be accurate that he has by human standards, he has a
Compromised immune system.
compromised immune system. So now he has. So anyway, the whole thing was, and I talked about this, but real quick. So it was just, I knew that I was going to send him and Kimberly, because now Kimberly was getting symptoms.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was going to, when I got done with the shows, I'll take a nap, and then I'm going to send them an audio recording. I don't know what I'm going to do. Just Todd makes that whenever, he does it, right? So now I have all these lucid dreams over an hour and 15 minutes, and it was just so accurate. And then it actually, as I woke up, it actually became a conscious experience. I would call it a conscious dimensional experience. So that means that I was having physical, 5 sensory things occurring, coming into my awareness through the 5 senses, but at the same time, my third eye was a parallel. It was so. I ended up sending him, writing it down. Then I just read it to him on this audio, and then I added some words at the end. And up to that point, he was pretty much done. He was, because we know
Yeah.
it's our will. And so, and I wasn't, and I told him, whatever you do, I'm good, no big deal. I love you, blah, blah, blah. And so then I did the video, and then she called me back, and she says, hey, he would like one of these healing circle of 8. And I didn't have any, I had nothing about it. I had nothing planned. I had nothing planned with the public, nothing. And so the fact that he said that, I knew we were in sync, and now I'm seeing 1111, and I'm seeing this and that. So I knew, okay, we'll do this video, do that video. And then somebody sends me a message that's a friend of theirs. Can we do a public one? And without asking them, I said, okay, let's do that, because it all was in sync. So I knew something was happening. And she actually sent me a note yesterday, by the way. And she said, last night, she said that his condition hasn't changed, but that there's a sparkle in his eyes. So at the end of the lucid dream, because it started with me connecting with him, and we had an experience, and then I fell asleep, went into lucid dream. We go to the lucid dream. At the very end of the lucid dream, it's me and him talking, and I say to him, so what are you going to do? Are you going to stay? And he just started laughing, and like he does, he started chuckling, and he says, I don't know. I haven't made my mind up yet. Just like he would say it, right? Mm-hmm. And then, but the thing was, as I looked in his eyes, there was this silver effervescent, I don't know what you would call it, like a starburst, but it was this particular silver color. So when that happened, I woke up, came out of the dream. I heard a thud. I look around, and some things happened. And then the first thing that happened, because I knew someone, soul was in the house. So I look over there, and I knew it was my soul. And I look, and that same silvery thing came flying out, like with my eyes, right? Like it was that same silvery thing, like a soul energy or something like that. But anyway, there was something that you had said that I was connecting that to. So, but anyway, Yeah. So, because she wrote me those words last night. She said, there's a sparkle in his eyes. See, I'm finding that every day, all day long, everything is reading like a book. So from the old human perspective, you won't see the connection, but now I can clearly see the connection. So everything matters, no matter what it is, and it's all connected. So it's much easier to see that. And I feel like that what you just said, like I said, you're connecting the dots. This is what he's done his entire life, 37
Mhm.
years openly. But prior to that, he was always doing it anyway. What does he do? He takes in everything for everyone, not as a martyr, but
Mhm.
because he has the capacity to do that. So what you're saying is what's happening. And then also this thing about the solo GTP, because you're saying that they said to bring the children in your experience earlier in life, which was basically saying, hey, bring those closest to, bring the monad or bring the tribe in, because that's how the process has the highest efficiency, right? So
Yeah.
what's happening now? We have this organic gathering 2 nights ago. There was 8 of us, and that was that night or the next night, and we had this thing, like I did stuff for like 5 minutes, and then there was just silence, and it wasn't planned. It was I went on for like 15 more minutes, and then of course this one that's happening in an hour and 10 minutes. So this is all the tribe coming in. You have this lucid dream where it's taking place in that soul GTP. I mean, so this is like almost freaky, but it's cool. But
Well,
it's really
here's the really freaky thing.
oh,
You
you're
think that's
kidding.
freaky? There's more.
Oh yeah.
So the entity that followed me home is actually a little boy who passed away from the first pandemic, sort of. Yeah. So he actually passed away from like smallpox, and it was, and it was one of those things where I'm just like, this can't be happening. Like, this is insane. You know what I mean? You're sitting there, you're like not feeling well. I was sweating so much, like my sheets were soaked. I'm like, God, this must be signs of menopause, right? Where you're just like, and then I went into like freezing where I was just shivering. I couldn't produce enough heat. And I was putting on loads and loads of layer of clothing. And then in the dream, it was actually, yeah, it was in that home, there are 3 really darker spots. And the little boy, I actually, at the first time of clearing, which is about a year and a half ago, I never paid attention to. The one I
Hmm.
actually was paying attention to was more of a teenage male that had like a really strong presence there. And then there was a couple who lost multiple babies trying to get pregnant. So in terms of priority, the little boy, it didn't even come on my radar as something harmful, right? So it was one of those things where it followed me home, and it amplified the effects of the COVID, basically vaccination. Like, I shouldn't have gone through that
Hmm.
as deeply as I did. But for whatever reason, at that time when I was interacting with it, it was trying to explain to me that the collective is going through a big healing. And that's when things got really kind of messy. It was just like, then I was like zoomed into like the Soulogy Fest. I was plunked into that tent. And then there was like all the faces that I recognized on there. And then you 3 were in the circle, and Morgan was there, and same with Kimberly. Um, who was the other one? Yeah. So there was just that intensity. And the thing that I thought was really crazy was that little boy was like, I want to be healed as well. Was never healed. I'm stuck here because of it.
Hmm.
Ask Franco to heal me. And that's when the light went off. And I'm like, ask Franco to heal you. And like, Franco is carrying that burden in the and I was like, and then it's just like all the teachings of the Cree, because I actually unintentionally trained under a Cree medicine man when I was like a teenager. I didn't realize what was happening. And now as an adult, all that training came through. So when I was a teenager and we came out of that sweat ceremony, Henry was actually quite healthy, but he was actually trying to transmute lung cancer. So for the woman that needed the healing. So when he came out, he started coughing, and you can see like black pillows of like clouds coming out of his mouth.
Like the Green Mile, like when the guy.
Yeah, it was just like, and so you're sitting there like prior to the ceremony. The other thing that I couldn't wrap my head, he needed the sunlight to part up. So basically, he needed that sunlight to help part the clouds. So he went through a quick ritual, parted the clouds, and right down the slice, there was like, it was raining the entire day. Like us driving up there, it was raining. Out in nowhere's land is raining on this land, but he needed the sunlight, so he parted the clouds. So in my lucid dream, it reenacted the same way. The clouds were parted, the sunlight came straight down onto that teepee in Sedona, and that was when the little boy basically dissipated back into the light. Wow. It was after when Franco acknowledged that, yes, I can help you pass to the light.
Yeah, wow.
And then, so that was when I was able to, then immediately my body switched off from like going into turmoil and all that. And then I was basically on the path of getting better, is when that boy finally lifted, right? With Franco holding anchor. So the other thing is just that with the medicine man, when he came out in real life, so going back like 25 years now, in real life, when he came out and he was coughing up the black cloud of like basically lung cancer, I asked my Cree mother, I was like, so is he going to get better? Like, I can't see physically how that's going to work. And she's like, not to worry, what's going to happen. He's going to go through weeks of hell to help her, but that's his path. It's not like a path. It's not a burden. That's his path of light. And he will basically, when she gets better, as soon as she starts turning, then he will get better. So for Franco, as soon as the collective tribe, his collective tribe that he's in, starts turning, he will also turn.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is trippy.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things, but are you gonna be able to go in an hour?
Go in an hour?
No. Are you gonna be able to go to the circle?
I should be. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to present some of this, not in a long-winded way, but just because it is significant. It's full of code, and so and again, I just know for myself, there's always multiple things happening. It's not just one thing, but I think one thing that I think should be pointed out, because it's important. I feel like it's important. So you've got me and you, and in regard to COVID. Now, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. You talked about this, and but so like the reason Morgan said to me, "How are you doing?" This is like the second day, third day, whatever. How are you doing? Tell me the truth. Is because she knows my feeling on this is just my own personal thing. Like we talked about 2-3 weeks ago. I'm going to handle this energetically. Like it would have been a cold day in hell for me to go to the hospital.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
And I got people out the gazoo telling me, I mean, my stomach was bleeding. I mean, there was a lot of stuff happening. Now, you, like you told us 2-3 weeks ago, you took this path of the vaxes. Now, here's my point. Because you said this, and I don't think people caught it. First of all, the possible side effects of the vax, and or in my case, the effects of, let's just say, a literal illness, right? It could have been I was trying to trace it, like from some broccoli that I juiced that I didn't clean, or you know what I mean? I mean, there had to be. But I look at but both of these people are strong in their knowing of what aligns with themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I love what you said about how when the energetics came in on a collective level, how our conditions at the physical level were enhanced. They were you could even say exacerbated.
Yeah.
So they got louder, and we both took the same path, which was to go into the experiences that we had. Both of us had lucid dreams, and then, of course, the connectivity to the past memories and all that stuff. So I think that's important because, again, this whole trip is about polarities. So we obviously know that you and I, are very connected. And in this instance, there's this polarity presented, yet the middle path was this that was taken. So there was a level of integration and merging there. Then you had the whole monad thing with all this stuff that you're dropping on us now, which if you'd have told me this 2 or 3 days ago, I probably would have had an orgasm. Just oh my God, this is just too much. I can't handle it. But so like connecting all the dots, the Soulogy Fest, because every time I have a expansion, it's always past, present, future kind of merge. So like as you're telling me this stuff, I'm seeing it where you kind of have a beat on it, but you can't connect the dots. You just connected all these dots. So ultimately, you've got Henry, the what do you call it, the shaman, or the one that was running the sweat lodge. You've got Franco, which in proportion to what the field of experience is, or the field of consciousness,
Yes.
he kind of has the same role.
Yes.
He's very, this is the most humble person I've met to have this degree of coding. And so, as I said, I think on one of the videos, this is a guy who could have easily, probably easier than 99.9999% of the people that have ever lived, could have easily have been a multi-billionaire. Easily. He was inventing stuff in high school, hydrogen engines, and got a visit from the government saying shut it down. And so this is an extraordinary person who's never, and I know things on a personal level that by human definition he has sacrificed and burdened himself with to be able to go out and do this every day, right? To go out and do what he does. So that's the same type of, and like your Cree mother said, it's nothing to look and go, oh my God, this is his path. And
yeah,
so,
and again, it's one of those things that you have to kind of rework it, right? So anyone that is, I think there are many light bearers out there that have played a beautiful martyr role in the past, and that's not actually the current energetics don't support that martyr role. So one of the other things I want to kind of intersplice into this conversation, and I know because there's a lot in the community, there's lots of conversations, and you kind of started that role on that, is about the balance of receiving and giving, right?
Yes.
So with Franco, he came into this collective to basically play that traditional martyr role, where you even said he sacrificed and burdened. That's not the case anymore. So for him to turn the corner, he needs to say, I don't need to do that anymore. No, everyone is fully capable. I can show my route and my path. And if it inspires others to join me, that's great. But I'm not here to take anyone off their own path, right? Or I'm not here to argue with anyone and say, you're wrong, I'm right, or I'm wrong, you're right. That's not part of it either. So part of the role of the rule of reciprocity is I think, and I don't want to put it all on Franco. I want to say we are at a point in the collective where we need to recognize that if we want to get rid of duality, we need to embrace the opposite of what we have been playing in order to bring balance back in. Once we bring the inner balance in, that's when the outer world will start to reflect. Pieces will fall in and start to reflect that, right? So in this circle of giving, believe it or not, if you've been the martyr and you always overgive, this is not the time for you to overgive. When you join this circle, I actually would encourage you to take the excess capacity if you need it for yourself. Yeah. And that's going to be a hard one for everyone because everyone can physically see Franco is struggling, right? Yeah. So this healing collective circle is not actually about Franco or about Todd or about Huong. This healing circle is actually about the current collective. It's for everybody. When
That's
you
right.
join it, be really honest with yourself. Up until this moment, which duality or spectrum of expression were you on? And if it was so extreme, play the opposite and play it with grace, Like, don't do it like you owe me, I owe you. It's not about that. It's about what is it that you've been playing that you never understood what the opposite role gives value to. It's time for you to reverse that and
Yeah.
let that role balance you out. So you don't hold resentment when you overgive, right? When
That's
you,
right.
because that's one of the things about being an overgiver is it feels good until people don't appreciate it. And then you feel like shit.
That's right. And then the
And
whole,
then you get
but look,
resentful.
you're just like on it, man.
So
This is
it's one
like,
of those. So the
yeah,
healing circle of the Franco healing circle at the human level, yes, Franco definitely needs to take excess capacity, and he has to take it graciously, right? Be
yeah.
like, not because he deserves it, not because anyone
It's
owes him.
balance.
It's
It's
about
balance.
balance. It's
That's
about
right.
balance, right? And then for everyone that joins it, that you've been out of balance, if you need to take it as well. If you've been always the person that's been like basically relying on people, being codependent, needing external validation, it's time for you to gift it forward
Hmm. Yeah.
because the validation needs to come from within.
Yeah. And see, if you go back to the lucid dream, I came out of observing the different uh, healing circles. I was going down this hospital corridor, and I was walking with Franco, and then I found myself. I had to talk to this doctor because he was asking me how to, that part of it. But then I went out and found Morgan, and she was just crying in happiness because she said, "Oh my God, we figured it out." And the gist of it was the equal energy exchange, which
Mm-hmm.
is what you're saying, and what the healing circle is. Now, it also could be uh, explained as a merging. Just there's
Is
no
that funny?
coincidences. Just like,
Sirens.
yeah, just like we talked about earlier. So so okay. I'll take the example of the overgiver overtaker.
Yeah.
So in general, you're an overgiver or an overtaker, but if you break it down by frequencies, some situations you're going to be an overgiver and some you're going to be an overtaker. Okay, but
Yeah.
what you're saying is accurate. So the idea is I mean, I think another way to look at it, I'm not saying the idea, but another way to look at it is to walk into this circle of life when we do have somebody in the center, and approach it from an equal energy exchange, knowing that, like, I may not know exactly what I need, but I'm going to open my heart and say, okay, I want to align with an equal energy exchange with Kimberly and Franco in this instance, and my brothers and sisters. So you're right. This is just a
Symbolic.
microcosmic. Yeah, it's a symbolic, uh, physical representation of what's occurring in the energetic field. And you're absolutely right. It's affecting in a very huge way, as I'm sitting here taking it all in, um, the entire Earth grid, and also I'm getting the reemphasis of what I was told in two occasions. So one was after the solo. Well, one was when I left Soulogy Fest, and I was the last one to leave, and I'm driving down the road, and there's a mountain over here, and there's a mountain over there, and they start screaming at me, and like the whole world just standing ovation kind of thing. And it was like, hey, you did it. The imprint is there. You'll never have to do it again. Others will do it. Now, of course, you can say, oh, literally, it's going to be Soulogy Fest all over the world. That wasn't the message. The message was the imprint was done by the vortex that was created and all that participated. That it would be replicated now by others on an energetic level. So then I go back to the condo, and Franco and Kimberly came to stay for 2 days. So the first night, we stayed up for several hours talking. And the next day, I went up to the store. It was just across the street, so I walked. And on the way back, I got this massive download. He was the symbol of the explanation, and it was basically showing. And I didn't understand it as well as I do now, obviously, but it was basically showing how an individual is that's projecting their frequency, their alignment, their purity of intention, and everything that he represents in all of us, right? That we had reached a level where those that received would be returning it in the quantum field in an equal basis. And so now we're actually watching this happen. And you explained it and connected the dots. And the other thing I would say too, to your point about and I kind of lost it for a second, but I remember the two instances. I know two people who, for some reason, I don't want to say who they are, but they have um, they have taken measures to reduce their communication, their connection with universal intelligence to a more singular voice. Like you could call it the soul over soul, but this has something to do with what you were talking about earlier, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Oh, I got it. It has to do with the over giving. Okay, it has to do with the sacrifice. It has to do with what you were saying is no longer applicable. And in one of the cases, the intel has been disengaged, except for the soul. And really, the other one, in other words, let's say you have a certain method that you've used to navigate, get your downloads, process, and so on, and it's rooted in what you're talking about. It's rooted in too taxing on the human. So now that the human's on the point, the human says, "Hey, as the human, I don't really want to do that anymore. Thank you for the help. I don't need the crutches anymore. I'm going to be direct now," which is equilibrium, which is another way of explaining the eradication or the transformation of the overgiving and overtaking imbalance. See, so you just like hit like 4 grand slams today. Like, I feel like a ping pong.
And I'm tired.
I feel like a pinball in a pinball machine, like bing, 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 bing. And that's really how it's been the last 2 weeks.
It has. Yeah, for sure.
Really
it's been like, I know a lot of people have been, well, we've gone through like almost 2 years of peaks and valleys, right? So that's going to wreak havoc on your physical being already. There's no plateau for us to basically recalibrate. You basically have to instantly adjust, or you go through like instant galvanization. There's no there's no grace and ease anymore, right? And for the situation that I think just this last week that has passed, I think a lot of us that have been on the precipice of basically upgrading to the next jump. I don't want to say that because it's not a competition, right? But so I just use that term loosely. But when you're on the precipice of the next jump, where you're just basically shedding a chapter of your life that no longer it has value. Like you don't even talk about that chapter anymore because you're like, what's the point about talking about that? You're just engaging with something that no longer brings you joy. So you just don't talk about it, right? You just shed it. And with the thing that is coming up with the healing circle, I think when you enter it, if you come in and you enter it and you've always been an overgiver, this is kind of a word of caution, is you may feel more of the heat than you want to. So that's kind of like the sweat ceremony, right? So the people that feel the intense heat are the ones that are carrying the burden because they have the capacity to light up a community. The other ones that carry the intense heat are the ones that have a lot of darkness, so they need that to manifest. So if you go into the healing circle and you are not at capacity to give, be completely honest about it. You know what I mean? Just say, I'm coming into this. We shouldn't even call it a healing circle. It really should be called like recalibration circle. where you go in and you take what you need to balance yourself out. And you leave, if you are the type of person that has excess energy, that's a perfect time for you to offload that excess energy as a gift, because that is part of the collective recalibration as well. So it before you step into it, of course, a lot of heart for Franco, because Franco has been playing the martyr role for a long time. Like, for whatever reason, he decided to incarnate in a human suit that has an immune compromised, right? So it's not easy, even though your soul and your mind and your energy is at this level. You can only activate, you can only perform at the level your body is going to let you at, right? Before the separation of soul and body starts happening, and then you left your body form. So of course, go in with the heart for Franco, but go in really for yourself. And I think that is not intuitive for people. Like, it's weird when you tell people to come into a community and go in it for yourself. Don't go in with the intention of healing Franco. Go in with the intention of basically recalibrating your energy system. So if you are out of balance, you know exactly what it is that you need, and take it graciously. Don't take it with like, oh, I'll pay you back mentality bullshit.
No.
The only thing that is you're going to unleash is basically ripples of creation that is going to blow this bullshit wide open, right?
Yeah.
And that is the way that we can move into a different evolutionary stage of creation.
Yeah. And I agree with the healing thing. I only put that in. It's actually a circle of life is what had come to me, but somebody put circle of love. I mean, I think the reformation, recalibration. Yeah. So I think that's needs to be mentioned, and I'll go in and change the text as well. But and when we broadcast, so we're actually going to have a Zoom room, and the link is on the different pages. But you can also watch it like this. You can watch it on the multi-stream. So we're going to do both. And I'm probably going to go in like 10 minutes early. And if you're going to be there, if you don't mind, I might just cue you if you want to, and just in case I can't pull it all together. But, I did the one we did the other night. I never really, I used to do a lot of this in my early, like say the first, like pre-Morgan, first 4 years that I was awake, but it would always come to me like this. It would come intuitively, it would come in the flow, and it would be, people that had passed or people that hadn't passed. And so I just would go in and do whatever came. And a lot of it was like ancient song and just different things, but it always seemed to work. I never have done it. And it's been a long time, but the other night when I did it, it worked out okay. So, but I also understand that it's just like this show, it's the whole vortex. So it's a lot like what you're describing, because every time this happens, I'm stepping into a circle. I never see just the person. It's the entire vortex of all the people, right? And so I'm not, I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm not Todd. I'm everybody. That's why, like, if you go back and look at the evolution of the show, people could say I was dumbing down. I really wasn't dumbing down, but if that's what the human has to hear in order to understand the process and the progress, then that's the way it would be. But it wasn't. It was because in representing everyone, every question was relevant. And for me to put the individual first in terms of like hierarchy, then that would have never pulled off. And that's not something I did. It's just something that I aligned with. So it's the same thing. And you're freaking me the fuck out.
It's just like, 2 nights ago, I was like, oh man, I'm going to tell you there's like this little boy in my room and it sounds so bad. I'm like, go away.
I would. Well, the reason I said it would have, because what was happening was I was getting so much intel anyway. Now I'm starting to get it starting to happen. I can feel it. Like, I mean, I start to get the energy starts to flow. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. But
Yes.
so
Yeah.
what was happening? Okay, was that it was enough coming from, let's just say, the ethers, right? Then I was getting in sequence and synchronicity, basically a pure love bombardment of physical people. Physical. It was a
Yes.
physical thing. So the last thing, it was real interesting, and now this has helped me a lot too. And again, what's it's helped me do, which means it's happening everywhere, is balance. Because what was happening was people like you and Morgan, uh, a lot of people, they were coming, the energy was coming at me. But because of my own misalignment, I was seeing one polarity more than the other. I was seeing their fear programming, let's just say, and I was also seeing their compassion, but I needed balance to bring those two into the same place, right? And to see those as the same thing, basically, because they were. And so I needed more fear, and you know what I mean? Like I was more like the Franco mode of the
Yeah.
sacrifice, right? You see what I'm saying?
No, I
So
get it. Yeah.
I can see where this is all coming together, and the other thing I find that I feel is it's not a polarity, it's a tripolarity. There's actually three pieces that are coming together, and also in terms of like, which I also see in terms of like how you were saying to step into the circle, because it is that Trinity energy of equally serving the other, yourself, and the collective, but it can only be initiated by serving self,
Yes.
by going stepping in to say the best thing I can do is be the highest frequency tuning fork that I can, which means that's the first priority. That's the best thing I can do for Franco. And
Yes.
it's in that paradoxical new reality that somehow it makes sense, which we can't fully make sense of right now. But yeah, so I just
And for this group, honestly, the spiritual community is built on, it seems like an archetype is the martyrdom, right? Like
yeah.
there's, I've never seen so many martyrs in one spot.
The martyr, well, yeah, and if you look at the wounded healer archetype, what is that?
Yes, yes.
That's
And you know what?
that's
And I'm like, I'm not the wounded healer archetype. I'm a little bit of a derivative. I have a God complex, which is not like this tribe that we're in. So the
uh,
God complex is I need to have purpose to your life that makes an effect of huge on someone else's, right?
yeah.
Like that's the only reason you're here, is to make a bigger effect for someone else.
Oh,
So the God complex is pretty strong for me. And so to be able to come into balance, I need to say, I'm humble. I'm just a small speck of spark of all these God complexes. All these martyr people need to step up and have this huge here, have some of this that I've been carrying like my entire 43 years. There's a lot of God complex. You can all have it. That's what I'm going to be contributing to that down
there you
circle.
go. There you go.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where it's just like almost the opposite of the wounded healer, where you're like, your God complex is like, God, here, have it all. This will help balance the community, you know?
Wow, this is powerful. I thought we were just gonna have a la-di-da, but I guess we're not having la-di-das anymore. It's not like our shows we used to do before you started doing them again. Good. I'm gonna go throw up now. So
Yes.
that's a
Well,
positive thing.
yeah, that's a positive thing. So we'll see
Oh,
everyone in this circle of recalibration and
yeah.
energy.
I'm gonna turn it on 10 minutes before so I can pull people onto the screen.
All right.
Because it's probably going to take a good 5 or 10 minutes after the hour to get everybody on that wants to be on. Anyone that wants to be on, just raise your hand when you come on. I would imagine anyone that goes in the Zoom room probably wants to be on, or they would just watch it on the multi-stream. So anyway, I just put it up to post and with the link again, so it's there. And
All right. We'll see
I'll see.
everyone there.
Yeah, thanks, Hung. Love
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Thank you for blowing my mind. I'm gonna go.